Good evening. Welcome in on this Monday night to State of the Tigers here on PowerMizzou.com. Live with you right now on YouTube, later on all your podcast channels. Appreciate you hanging out with us. I am Gabe DeArmond. This show every single Monday brought to you by our friend and my insurance agent, James Carlton at State Farm Insurance in Webster Groves, Missouri. If you live in Missouri or Illinois, get in touch with James at carltoninsurance.net. Give him a call, 314-961-4800. James wants to be your insurance agent. I heard a commercial that James had done with Luther Burden earlier this morning. So, look, those NIL deals aren't cheap, man. He's got to make up that money. He needs some more clients. So get in touch with James. Get a quote on your insurance, and if you tell him you heard about it on Power Mizzou, he is going to donate a little bit of that money to Mizzou's NIL fund. So appreciate James, appreciate all you guys hanging out with us. Like, comment, subscribe, do all those things. Put your questions, comments in the chat. We will get to them throughout the show. But before we do that, we're bringing Jarod Hamilton in. We're going to talk to Drew King a little bit later about basketball, but we had news that was so monumental, so earth-shaking, so completely unexpected today. Luther Burden going to the NFL draft. Jarod, I was totally unprepared for this. He's only been in college 3 years. I thought college lasted 4 years, man. What happened?
Yeah, pretty shocking news. Excuse me.
We're still recovering.
I think the only thing that was a shock is maybe that it was just 2 days later after the game. I don't know. I don't know why you think it couldn't have been like a date like today, but yeah, him going into the draft. I mean, we've known this since signing day. His signing day, a few years ago, that it's 3 and out.
100%. Yeah, it was. I'm trying to think. I think it was in October of 2021, maybe. So a little over 3 years ago. And I mean, sitting in that gym, everybody knew Luther was here for 3 years, or wherever he was going to go. We knew he was there for 3 years. Look, he's done his service to this program. I think he did a lot to raise the profile of Missouri. I don't think it was possible to live up to the expectations fans had. But he had a good career. Put Missouri, I don't want to say put Missouri on the map, because I think that's a little disrespectful. I think Missouri was on the map, and I think a lot of other guys had a lot of things to do with this. But I mean, Luther's been the face of this thing for the last 2 years. While they've gone 20-5. If you ask most people outside of Columbia, Missouri, name me as a Missouri football player, he's the guy they know.
Right, him and Brady, but obviously being the 5-star guy with all the commercials, that and scoring the touchdowns and stuff like that. Obviously, he's the go-to guy. So yeah, he did what he needed to do here. You can argue he did a little bit more. And we talked about this post game of after Arkansas about what Drink said about him. Like, you don't really hear coaches go out on a limb that far out to say, this kid changed the trajectory of a whole, football program and the coach's career himself. I think he probably did a lot more than was it, what was expected of him.
Yeah. Mike says we need him on the pod. I'll tell you, I've reached out to Luther's representation and asked if it is possible to get an interview with him. I have not heard back. I'm frankly not sure I will hear back. If I do hear back, I'm not sure that the investment will be worth it. But yes, we've asked. We're going to take a shot. I've been following Luther for about 5 years now, so certainly would be interested to get one last chance to kind of talk to him and let him talk to Mizzou fans and all that. But we'll see where it goes. So there's been a lot of like up and down this year, right? I think everybody thought at the beginning of the year Luther is a top 15 pick, and then I don't pay attention to mock drafts until like probably March after the combine. I'll start to pay attention to him. I don't pay a ton of attention to him in October, but I think there are a lot of Missouri fans who have started to think, well, he's not going to go in the first round because he only had 500 yards receiving or whatever. He's going to go in the first round.
This just brings me back to my victory that you admitted a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was last week.
It was after the Mississippi State game.
yeah, when you have 1,200 yards in the season, 86 receptions, I think he had like 9 touchdowns or whatever. Everybody takes notice. And it makes sense that if in the next year, especially in the SEC, after you have that type of year, teams start playing you different. Now obviously Missouri had a hand in him not getting as many touches as he probably should have. He had a couple drops himself. That plays a factor. But I think he only had 61 catches this year, something around there. A lot of factors go into that, so it's not his fault. And I don't think scouts say, "Oh man, he went from 1,200 to 600." It's a fluke. If you're a 5-star guy who's been getting hyped up as a first-round pick since you were a freshman, one really good season like that, everybody knows. Even his freshman season, he only had 375 yards, but he found the end zone 9 times.
And he was also like, he was top 5 in the SEC in receptions this year. He didn't put up 100 or anything, but like he still had a fine year.
Exactly. So the stats and all that stuff, like, yeah, it's important, but considering he doesn't have any major injuries, at least that we know about, no injuries, and we've seen his tape for 3 years, you don't need a year-by-year thing. I think that only applies to guys who are maybe fringe type of guys. And I'm not talking about fringe first round. I'm talking about fringe draftable players. It matters if you are improving year by year, not when you're, like Lou, basically.
And look, I don't mean any disrespect to the kid I'm going to talk about here, because he had a hell of a career at Missouri and it was a great story. But if you guys don't understand after the last 2 years that the NFL doesn't care what your numbers are, when Cody Schrader went undrafted and has not been on the active roster for an NFL football game, and Luther Burden's going to go first round, like, guys, they don't care. It doesn't matter. You can run for 8 million yards and they don't care. I mean, like, and this is going back way before Jarod's going to know who I'm talking about, but like Tommy Frazier and Darian Hagan were 2 of the most exciting, best college football players I've ever seen play. Nobody was ever going to draft them. It is a different game. They don't look at your numbers. And as long as I'm on kind of the rant, I'm going to put this comment up. I'm going to apologize in advance that my frustration here has nothing to do with Caleb. Caleb, we appreciate you being here. We appreciate you taking part, but I am going to dissect your comment here. Do not underestimate the NFL's ability to disrespect Mizzou. Drew Lock should have gone round 1, and he didn't. I love Drew Lock. He's a great kid. Loved covering him. Know his family. Still keep in touch with members of his family. Wonderful kid. Drew Lock is not a starting quarterback in the National Football League. He has proven over, 4 or 5 years now, he should not be a starting quarterback in the National Football League. He is a perfectly capable, break glass in case of emergency, do not drive the car into the ditch, backup quarterback in the NFL. GMs that take guys like that in round 1 get fired. I mean, I just, like, this is your emotional bias. The NFL does not care where you went to school. It doesn't. I mean, how many small school kids have to be big stars before every year big school fans go into the draft thinking they're going to get 14 guys drafted or whatever. And usually it doesn't happen because there's guys from, Tennessee Tech and the Colorado School of Mines and the University of Phoenix and the Southeastern Iowa Nursing School that get drafted because they're NFL football players. Jarod, that's all I got. Do you have anything to add on that particular subject?
You kind of hit most of it. Caleb, I don't think it's a disrespect. I don't think now what the Giants are doing currently with Drew Lock and having Tommy DeVito get a start over him, I don't agree with that. That's kind of a little bit of foolishness. But as far as him, he's proven why he's not a first round pick. Oh, John, right on time. He says Drew Lock has proven he shouldn't have gone round 1. Maybe the execs knew what they were doing. Yeah, see, that's how you grade properly. People like to make draft grades soon as the decision happens, soon as the person's drafted. You don't know. You got to give it time. And so we've gotten about 5 or 6 years of Drew Lock, and you've kind of seen that NFL quarterback just in general. Sure, yeah, he's got some talent, some traits that can translate to the next level. But as far as being QB1, being drafted in the first round, like you say, people get fired and their career is ruined by saying, "Oh, you're the guy." Not that you picked a running back or receiver or whatever. You picked a quarterback and you missed that badly. Like, can't be having that.
And Caleb says, fair. I just think Drew was better than Daniel Jones. Look, he may be better than Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is also getting dudes fired in the National Football League. Look, Daniel Jones, bad pick in round 1, and I think a lot of people thought that at the time.
6.
Nobody is disputing that.
I mean, that QB class as a whole, it was him. I think Haskins went, maybe 9, 10 picks later. I'm probably missing 2019.
I'd have to look back. I mean, I know he's in at least year 5 because he's already gotten another contract.
Yeah. Overall, I can't remember. I'm trying to think, is that Kyler's draft or whatever? But outside the first pick, I can't really remember stand out in my mind at this moment.
Yeah. So, all right. So look, we think Luther's going to go round 1. How high, I don't know, because everybody that's not a quarterback tends to get dropped a little bit in round 1 because people lose their mind and have to take 5 quarterbacks in the first 8 picks. So where he'll go, who knows? It probably will. Well, I was going to say it probably won't be to a great team, but that's not true. He might go 16, 17, 18 and go to a pretty good team.
The story we put out earlier about him entering the draft, I think it was Ryan Wilson from CBS. His last mock had him going 22nd to the Cardinals. I think it depends on obviously, I feel like it depends on
Luther and Marvin Harrison be fun.
Be incredible. I think it depends on more so the situations when it comes around those middle of the pack, bottom of the first round type of teams, because that's easily kind of the spot where your contenders trade up. And I'm not even trying to do this because I like the Chiefs. That's usually a spot 22nd where it seems like I need that guy's still kind of on the board. Similar to Trent McDuffie a couple years ago. Maybe I get that receiver, corner, whoever it is. So I think it depends on what teams are, what they kind of need at that spot and if they're willing to trade up or down.
You just get ready. Over under on Luther Burton to the Chiefs post on Power Mizzou over the next 4 months is set at 299.5. So we'll see where it goes. All right. So look, Luther, as I posted today, it's not like huge breaking news. It's not a surprise. Luther's not playing in the bowl game. I think we all knew that. Everybody knew that Saturday was probably the last time we saw him. I kind of have mixed emotions about that. It's unfortunate that the last time we saw him, he had 1 catch for 11 yards. It's also kind of fitting that the last catch he made, he ended up in the end zone, for kind of what ended up being the game icing points. Drinkwitz kind of made a big deal on Saturday night. He said, you're going to see about our team when you see how few, if any, of our seniors opt out of the bowl game. So, do you think he was saying that because that's what's going to happen? Or do you think he was kind of like, all right, I'm going to send a message here. I expect my guys to play.
I think he was saying that because he has he's had these conversations with his players. Mm-hmm. That's kind of bold to say, yeah, guys, I'm expecting a lot of my upperclassmen to play in a bowl game. I don't know. He said a lot of things, and I think the last couple of years he's been better at kind of biting his tongue on information he has or things he may want to say. So I'm inclined to believe he truly believes, outside of course Luther, that he'll have, we already know he's going to have Brady and Johnny, but we'll probably have Theo Weiss and who else? Charleston and all.
Right. I mean, how many guys are there? I don't think there's another guy on this team that has any chance to go in the first 3 rounds in April. Do you?
Yeah,
maybe Johnny Walker could.
Still thinking of Johnny as kind of day 3-ish, but I mean, I can think of top of day 3. I don't think it's necessarily like 7th round pick. I think Johnny, because the last few years, at least since I've been here, I feel like the magic number for sacks for like the premier pass rusher on this team is usually 7.5. I think Isaiah McGuire had 7.5 when I first got here. I think D-Rob had 7.5, 8.5 last year. I can't remember, somewhere in that range. And then Johnny, with the way he played at the end of this year, he has 7.5. And so, he's shown a lot of things. He put a lot of weight on. I think he can get into, 4th, 5th round territory.
Yeah. And David Carnell saying Armand Mimbo, and yeah, like I think Armand is a guy that could get drafted, but like as of now, I expect Armand to come back next year. Now maybe that changes, but I think he's back next year. So if you're coming back, you're not skipping the bowl game, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, that's why. Same thing. Wasn't thinking about him just because we assume for now that he's gonna stick around another year. And someone put earlier, I think you may have had it up, Theo. It can boost his draft stock, and that's why I like when players opt in, though. Like I guess the first round guys, but after that, I can make a case for everybody that's not a guaranteed first to like play. Like you don't know what that game can do for you.
Well, and also to me, it's look, I don't think one game like Theo Weiss could go up 240 yards receiving in the bowl game, and I don't know that it makes him a better NFL prospect than he is today. Like I don't think it makes that big of a difference. But here's the thing to me: again, first round pick, even a second round pick, if you're guaranteed, absolutely, I'm good with that. Sit out, go make your money, all that. Once you get past the second round, you are not guaranteed to make an NFL roster. So if you're a guy that is going in thinking you're a 3rd, 4th, 5th round pick, like you might get cut. And like I've seen kids here who have skipped a bowl game and all they ended up doing is skipping the last football game they ever got to play. And to me, like if you're a guy that's going to maybe go in the 5th round, why would you just voluntarily say, this might be the last time I ever set foot on a field? Because like most of us, hey, get to our senior year in high school and you know what the schedule is. And you're like, all right, well, this is the last time I'm ever going to play football or basketball or swim or do whatever you do. Like there's a finite limit on when it is. And you kind of can prepare for this is my last day. Well, a lot of these guys can, right? A lot of these guys know they're not playing in the NFL and they can prepare for that. But if you're a guy that has NFL dreams, cool. So you might not think it's your last game, but you might get to training camp and all of a sudden find out, oh, I played my last game 9 months ago and I didn't even know it. So I wouldn't skip that game. That's just kind of my take on it.
Also, let me add to that real quick. I think you may not necessarily boost it. Like if you're a first round guy, you may not necessarily boost it up significantly. But I remember, I think it was JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba, who had 300 yards in the Rose Bowl, and like he was a first rounder regardless. But when you had that game, I mean, he had that a year before he was
right. He had that when Harrison, or it wasn't Harrison, it was Olave and
it was Olave, I believe.
Opted out.
Yeah, I think it was the Olave one. So I guess that point doesn't count. But I was going to say, if you have that type of game, I mean, now you're known as the guy who put 300 yards up in the Rose Bowl and stuff like that. But
it puts you on the radar for the next year.
Yeah, but I forgot that was a year before, actually.
Yeah. Getting a lot of Dalen Carnell comments. And look, again, as of now, I would think he's back next year. Like he didn't walk on senior day. I think Dalen is an NFL player, but again, I'm not sure he's like a day 1 or 2 NFL guy. So I'm operating. These guys we're not talking about Armand Mimbo, Connor Tollison, Dalen Carnell. Like we're operating under the assumption they are coming back next year. Now that's not a guarantee, but that's kind of why we're not mentioning these guys. We're talking about this draft next April. I just like Christian Williams isn't a first 2 or 3 rounds guy, is he?
Is he a draftable player?
Right, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
I don't know if he's a draftable player. I think a lot of these guys are going the D-Rob route, which is you get your draft evaluations or whatever.
Oh, yeah, they'll all check it out.
Yeah, they'll get what they need and they'll come back instead of like I mean D-Rob could have rightfully so taken his third to fifth round critiques or whatever grades and went in then that would have been fair, but he kind of bet on himself. So okay, Mark thinking the same thing. Bet on himself kind of bumped up his stock. So I think maybe a lot of guys are doing stuff like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, we expect most guys to play, I think. I could be wrong on that. Hey, weird things happen in college football all the time, but that's where I stand. So we're gonna have Drew King coming in here in 15 or 20 minutes. So let's go ahead and get to questions and comments and all that. John saying losing a 5-star O lineman bigger than gaining a 4-star receiver in a running back position. Look, guys, the Lamont Rogers stuff again. If you were like, I'm not saying it makes it better or worse or anything, but everybody expected this. Like Redding has been on the wall here for a couple months, and yeah, you don't want to lose a 5-star, but what are you going to do? My information is certainly that Missouri will not go find another high school lineman to replace him because there's not a lot of 5-stars sitting out there. I mean, maybe something falls in their lap, but otherwise expecting that they go transfer portal, and there's a pretty good offensive lineman in the state next year, and Caleb Long mentions him in Jackson Cantwell. All right, let's see. Are we going after a QB in the portal? If so, you just have to look about 300 miles southwest of Fayetteville. Malachi Singleton. Are you familiar with him, Jarod?
I'm pretty sure.
Fill me in because I'm not.
So he's Arkansas's backup. I'm pretty sure he scored the game winner versus Tennessee.
Okay.
I think Green was hurt for a little bit and he came in. Excuse me, and he closed that game out. So yeah, he's a guy. Was it Miller Moss entered the portal? I know that's. I've talked to other Mizzou beat reporters about him being an option. What's the other guy we was just talking about? Who was we talking about yesterday?
I can't remember.
There's going to be more. I mean, this is a
right. There's going to be a lot of guys out there, and there's going to be guys that probably you aren't expecting that enter the portal, right? But here is what I would do if I was Missouri. Like somebody, I can't even remember. Somebody brought up a name on the board who basically was another guy, like 4 or 5-star backup has never played, and I said, you've got one of those. Like if you're going in the portal,
you need somebody.
I think you go find somebody that's actually played college football. Now, maybe not in the SEC because like an SEC starter probably isn't transferring. Although I don't know. Like I think it might have been you. I was talking to somebody the other day. Like I don't know. What if Jalen Milroe just pops in the portal, right? Like I don't know. Weird things happen, man. Like why would that not? Who knows? Like he wasn't recruited there by Kalen DeBoer. Bama fans, I think, are not in love with the guy. Like, why would anybody have thought Dylan Gabriel was transferring last year after putting up big numbers at Oklahoma? That's my point, is like things like that happen in the quarterback market. So the availability is going to change, but I'm not insistent on one name or another. That's up to the coaches. But if I'm Missouri, I'm going and I'm finding a guy who has played college football, because I think ideally what you're getting out of the portal here is a guy that comes in and he's your guy for a year, maybe 2 years. And then Matt Zollers is the future of this thing for a couple years. Like, I think that's the plan.
Yeah. And I think to kind of keep the momentum of being, you just elevated your floor to 9 wins, possibly get to 10 wins. You can't be doing the shiny object that has no wear and tear on it. Basically, you can't the 4 and 5-star guy that hasn't played. Like it sounds good, and that would sound good maybe entering this year when you had Brady or maybe last year. But when you're trying to stay at a certain level, which is always contending, you can't really throw the dart at the board and miss.
Right.
So
because if you throw, I don't care if he's a 5-star kid. You could take the number 1 quarterback in the country to a year ago, or say DJ Lagway hadn't played, right? And he enters the transfer portal. Like you can take him but you don't know for sure what you're getting. Now, if DJ Lagway wants to transfer this year, you 100% take him because you've seen it. But yeah, like the hit rate on quarterbacks is not high, man. So I think we're in agreement. You can't just take a guy that you go, I think.
Yeah, and one thing I've seen, and this has been talked about a lot, especially since he said he was going to transfer Thomas Castellanos for BC.
No.
I don't think he'll be an option, and I don't think so because with the receivers Missouri has and is bringing in, you cannot tell them that you're bringing this quarterback here and trust him to get them the ball. Like this is not the system for him. It feels like that would be too much change on both sides to get that to work.
Missouri's entire game plan against Boston College was, please, Thomas Castellanos, throw the ball because you won't beat us. And he didn't. And then, did you see Bill O'Brien's comments about Castellanos?
I didn't.
He basically said, I had a roster full of guys that worked really hard and were really tough, and he was not one of those guys. Oof. I mean, it was not anything that you would necessarily want. All right, we're kind of all over the map here, but trying to hit the questions. Mike, could the DN from Georgia shift to linebacker if needed next year? That's Darius Smith. I mean, coming off an ACL. I mean, Darius Smith's he was a fairly big guy. I think he's a defensive end.
Yeah, he's about 240, 250. And I don't know, first off, that's a whole lot of responsibilities, kind of changes if they were trying to play the Mike or the Will role from what they want him to do. They just want him who, as they were saying through, fall camp, kind of physical freak guy. Go be DJ Coleman, if y'all remember him from a couple seasons ago. Like, be physically imposing, be able to get sacks, and kind of help out. And you don't even have to be the DE1, maybe that DE2, DE3 role. That's kind of what they figure for him.
Yeah, I mean, you got Zion Young coming back, assuming coming back for another year. You've got, I wrote something this morning, like a couple of the guys you'd really like to see take a step forward next year are Will Winery and Jaylen Brown. And so you got guys there. But no, I think he's a defensive end. With a lot of head coaching openings in the group of 5, is Kirby Moore going to get a look? Fresno is open. I don't know how serious of a candidate Kirby is there. I've seen his name mentioned a little bit, but there's going to be movement that happens here pretty soon because, like, these schools can't wait around. They got to fire guys unless they want to wait till after signing day on Wednesday and fire them, and then their whole class ass out of their letter of intent gets it anyway. But the portal opens Monday. Like, you got to know what you're doing, I think, by Monday. West Virginia's open. So what happens with West Virginia? I've seen some Jimbo Fisher talk. I think Barry Odom's a strong candidate there. So then UNLV has nobody. Like, it's this big domino effect. Kirby got some looks last year. I think he could get looks this year. It's just about whether it's the right job.
That, and last year again, the offense was exciting. It was more explosive. The growth from where it was in 22 to 23, like, you can see the sizable leap in improvement this year. Kind of on the other end, I don't think it's like a drastic down, but it was not exactly the same. We've seen the offense and the rhythm of it kind of not be where it needed to be, and it didn't start clicking, unfortunately, for them until basically we knew their playoff chances were basically down the drain. So
right.
I think another year, I mean, he could get those G5 offers or whatever, but I think like another year here, to me, in my opinion, probably would, probably could do him some good still.
And the other thing you got to realize about some of these small, I mean, Kirby's making like 1.2 a year. Some of these places, like we're seeing coaches go from G5 head coach to Power 5 coordinator more than the other way around, right? So it's possible that he might not even want to make that move. I don't know that. I'm just throwing it out there. Crump, do you have to enter the portal prior to the bowl game? So we're going to have a whole transfer portal thing that'll go up here later in the week that explains everything about it, that follows all the movement, all that, because it's going to be nuts. And I understand people don't necessarily know how it works, but it opens on December 9th. It stays open to December 28th. So all that you have to do is enter at some point. So like, yeah, let's say Missouri plays in a bowl game that's on December 29th. And I'm just throwing that out there. I don't even know if that's possible. But yeah, a player would have to enter the portal before that game. Now, like last year, Drinkwitz let those guys still play in the game. I don't, or still be part of the team and all that if they wanted to. I don't know if that will necessarily be the case this year. I think again, it probably kind of depends who it is, right? I mean, if the 4th-string linebacker and the special teams guy wants to go in the portal, he can go in the portal. If all of a sudden you wake up one day and I don't even want to pick a name, but like you got a guy who's playing 35 snaps a game wants to go in the portal, well, you might want to keep him around for that bowl game,
Yeah. The way they was talking again makes it seem like I think it's if you're gonna have your upperclassmen, stay and play, I think you'll be able to retain a lot of other guys. However, I guess on the flip side, some of those younger guys who know usually this is the time where we get the extra practice, we get to play, and dang, they're still going to be around. There could be that guy who's just like, all right,
well,
I gotta leave.
and look, the truth is, if you're gonna go in the portal, like it's to your advantage to do it as soon as possible, right? Because spots start filling up, and if you're a fringe guy that hasn't played a lot here, you got to get in the portal and start hearing from guys and get that spot before they find other guys in the portal, and all of a sudden you don't have anywhere to go, and you end up playing at SIU Edwardsville, So I don't even know if they play football. I know they play basketball, but point being, like if you're going to go, you got to go, and it's really been pretty amazing to me. Missouri's portal activity in the last 2 years, like they have gotten a lot of starters out of the portal. They've really, since Dominic Lovett, lost almost nobody that like it surprises you that they went in the portal, right? Everybody that has gone in the portal from Missouri, you go, yeah, he wasn't playing much. That doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about it.
I can't think of anybody since Lovett that surprised me.
Yeah.
So, so he's done very well in those two. We were talking the other day about this, about Daniel's question, Chris McClellan back. I mean, he certainly can be. He is draft eligible. I wouldn't think he's an early entry NFL guy, but I don't know.
He fits into the Cornell thing to me where like I think he had this is by far his best season, but I think kind of like D-Rob, like that was his best season in 22. Yeah, when it was his best season in 22, but scouts kind of basically said, go back and try to do that plus more. And I think if Chris gets another, has another year like that or can improve, can do the same type of thing.
Yeah. Rapid fire through a few of these and we'll get to Drew in the next 5 minutes or so. With Marquise Davis committing, do we still portal a running back? So, Jarod, have you changed your mind on this, or do you still think they'd look running back?
After seeing this move, potentially, getting Haygood. If they can land him and then have this Davis along with Lacey and Roberts, I'm kind of leaning a little bit more towards you don't have to, unless that's a best player available situation, then obviously go for it. But I can still, now I'm seeing your point a little bit more because I was just watching this Davis kid like huddle highlights. He's starting to fit the mold it seems like they're going for, which is 6 foot, kind of fast, but also bruiser type of back, like kind of like Roberts and Lacey, where you can do a little bit of both, make people miss in space, but it also takes like 2 or 3 guys to tackle them. So I see what they're going for, and I guess they don't necessarily need to reach.
Yeah, I mean, if they take somebody, I think it'll be a situation where somebody pops in the portal and wants to come here, and you go, well, like, yeah, we got to take that guy, right? Yeah, Ashton Genty wants to transfer. Awesome, yeah, gotta add that guy. Jamarian Morrow, Brendan Haygood, who's better? Look, I don't know. I have no idea. Missouri really is in a position where they don't know what Morrow's doing. Haygood's going to commit somewhere tomorrow night. We think it's going to be Missouri. You can't tell that kid no, hoping you get Jamarian Morrow to stay, and then Morrow goes to Georgia, and you're screwed and you lost them both.
Yeah.
If Haygood's ready to say yes, you got to take him.
Yeah. That's one of those things where it's kind of you'll figure that out later. What you do is what my mom always tells me is like, if you're going to quit a job, you got to get another job first. Then
Right.
you can quit. Don't quit and then hope that the job interview works out. So
fair. All right, let's finish with this one. David wants to know, do we think Michigan and Nashville may be the bowl? Is Mizzou versus Colorado and Vegas a possibility? So I had posted earlier today that I'd had a couple people reach out to me and say they're hearing, some Michigan, Mizzou, and the Music City Bowl buzz. Michigan, I've got some friends that cover Big Ten schools. Michigan was kind of slated for the Pinstripe Bowl, and it was going to be probably Nebraska in the Music City Bowl, but then Michigan went and beat Ohio State, and that kind of ups the profile a little bit. They're 7-5, and coming off a big win, and they are Michigan and all that. So I'm hearing some Michigan Mizzou talk in Nashville. I do think Vegas is still a possibility, and I think the Gator Bowl is a possibility.
How many teams do we think making the playoffs? With 3 from the SEC?
That's the thing. It's 3 or 4. Like Tennessee's in, Georgia's in, Texas is in. So it's that last spot. Is Clemson going to steal it? Does Miami get it? Or does one of those 3 SEC teams get in? Right. That's the question. Because then if another one gets in, then that bumps everybody up 1 rung.
Right. In this scenario, we've talked about this. Would you rather Missouri play Michigan? Forget the bowl game, but just like the game was. Would you rather Missouri play Michigan or Colorado? I'll let you go first.
I say, there's upside to both. I would personally choose Colorado because, look, here's the one thing we have figured out about Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes. Love them or hate them, everybody watches them. Everybody talks about them. You will get eyeballs. You are on a national stage on that game. And people will say, but it's Michigan. I understand it's Michigan. The advantage to playing Michigan, I think, is it is a brand name that honestly isn't a very good team. Now, I know they just beat Ohio State, but I think Missouri would be favored. I said this morning, I think Missouri would be favored by 3 to 5 points in that game. You think that's fair?
I would go Michigan, and for a couple reasons. 1, it's probably easier to get that 10th win. 2, they're more likely to have a lot more quality players playing. Colorado probably isn't having Shador.
I don't know. Deion says his guys are playing. And when his guys are, when one of them's his kid, what advantage would there be to say he's playing if he's not?
Because my thing is he's Deion and he's Shador. If he wants to go back and be like, what, actually, we've thought about it. And talked about it. And I don't think anybody should trip out if that's the case. I mean, I'm more so thinking until I see them snap the ball and they're on the field, I'm not believing that they're going to play. So I think, you play Michigan, you can say you beat a Big Ten team 2 years in a row, or premier,
and not just a Big Ten team, but the Big Ten teams.
Yeah, I was about to say, you beat a premier Big Ten team 2 years in a row in a bowl game. You get that 10th win, and again the traveling and all that stuff. If it is in Nashville, a lot more wins in that in that scenario.
Yeah, I think a lot more fans would go. So yeah, look, I don't have a problem with either one. I'm not super picky, but. Yeah, Michigan in the Music City Bowl would be just fine. There's probably other questions, guys. It's been I think we've had 14 stories today. We got a lot of stuff. It's a busy week. We got Drew waiting in the green room, so we're gonna let Jarod click off and remind you real quick before we do bring Drew in that once again, James Carlton, State Farm Insurance. Check him out, carltoninsurance.net. Facebook.com/Carlton Insurance, or call him at 314-961-4800. He's my insurance agent. He's Drew King's insurance agent. He wants to be yours. He will get you the best deal he can. And get in touch with James and see how everything goes. Now we bring Drew King in, who is fresh back from Texas to talk to Dennis Gates this morning. So how was that?
It was a Dennis Gates press conference, out of all the ones he's had, that was one of them.
Yeah, that about describes it. I asked him after I guess it was Lindenwood that they played. Like, he kind of winding down toward it. Like, I knew I didn't want to ask this in the middle of the press conference, but I was like, Dennis, I don't know if we'll talk to you again before the next game. So just curious your thoughts on playing Cal. And it was legitimately like it had never occurred to him that anybody would be interested in asking about that. I guess he was a little better about it today, but didn't really say a lot.
Yeah, I mean, he obviously played at Cal, and so I was curious what his reaction was. He really didn't want to get into it, but he said, obviously he's got a lot of respect for them, loves all the teammates that he has there, but he's the coach of Missouri now, and so that's kind of what he's focused on. I've also heard from Ryan Sharbaugh, he kind of hates talking about his playing days. I don't know why. After that first question, I didn't really want to press him anymore.
Yeah. Let's be honest, Drew. He hates talking to us.
Well, true. That's fair.
I mean, I think it's us more than the subject, to be quite honest with you. All right. So I think the newsworthy thing to come out today is no Caleb Grill tomorrow night, which should surprise absolutely nobody.
Yeah, I think that's very accurate. It looked worse than it seems like it actually has turned out to be, right? Because when you hear neck injury, when you hear like he's on the floor, he hasn't moved, they're scratching his arms to make sure he can feel, like that's a pretty scary scene. But yeah, it seems like Caleb's gonna be a-okay. He apparently called Dennis Gates at 2 a.m. saying like, I'm good to go, I'm jogging in place. So I don't know how long he's going to be out. Dennis Gates called it day-to-day, which means that we might not see him again for the rest of the season.
Right.
So, like, nothing would surprise me with the situation. Is it impossible for him to play against Kansas? I don't know. But, yeah, we'll keep y'all updated there.
I would kind of more target, and again, like, I'm not trying to be doctor here. He got hit and bent his neck back. Like, whatever, get the kid healthy, obviously.
Yeah.
But ideal world, I think you target like bragging rights.
Yeah.
Hey, because we know he's not playing tomorrow. KU, I don't feel great about that game with or without Caleb Grill, to be quite honest.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got, I think, some no-name tune-up, and then
you got two of them, actually.
Okay, December 22nd, bragging rights is 3.5 weeks away. So from the injury. So I think that's it. So, all right, the season starts tomorrow. But like, tell me if I'm wrong about this game. The way I view this game is it is a team we've heard of. They play in a real conference. They could beat Missouri. If they beat Missouri, then we got to quit talking about this team really going anywhere this year. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's very fair. It's reminding me a lot of the Wichita State game from 2 years ago, where it's like, okay, it's Wichita State. We've heard of them. They're not bad, but you probably still want to beat this team. And you remember, Gabe, like that game went to overtime, and Kobe Brown played horrible that game, took himself out of the game. But they still found a way to win. So I think that's kind of the expectation here, especially playing at home against Cal.
My comp might be Minnesota last year.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they're a power conference team, but like, we probably all should have understood when Minnesota had them down 19. I understand they came back and won the game, but when Minnesota had them down 19 points in the second half, maybe it should open our eyes a little bit to, maybe this team isn't very good.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I feel about Cal. Like, they don't suck. They're fine, but if you lose this game at home, then I think you're probably going 9-4 in the non-conference, and that's just not good enough.
Yeah. So I dug into Cal a little bit today, looking at their games against Vanderbilt and USC. And I actually do think they've got some
USC's like bad, right?
Yeah, it's looking that way. But I do think Cal has some pretty good players on the roster that you do have to give some respect to, right? So for starters, Andrei Stojakovic, son of Peja Stojakovic. I'm sure you know who that is, Gabe.
I do.
Yeah. So
I don't watch the NBA, but I know who NBA players are.
So he doesn't play a whole lot like his dad is the thing. He's not that great of a shooter, but he's really good at getting to the rim and getting to the free throw line. He's averaging like close to 18 points a game this season. He's kind of been their main guy. He's going to for sure play. But then, Gabe, they've got 3 starters who have missed the past 3 games with injuries, and I'm not 100% sure if they're going to play or not tomorrow. But one of them is Javon Blackshear.
So that's like basically every player in this game is day to day.
Basically,
we could show up and like we could just go, well, I don't even know who any of these guys are because they've never played before, but everybody that has played is out.
Correct. One of those guys.
To interrupt.
No, you're fine. One of those guys is Javon Blackshear, who, if you know about Grand Canyon basketball, you know they've had some recent success, and he was a big part of that. He was their starting point guard basically every year that he was there. But he's missed the past 3 games, so we'll see like what happens. And then because he got hurt, Mark Madsen started playing this 3-star freshman named Jeremiah Wilkinson, and they haven't played anybody good yet, but he's been really good. He's had like 3 straight 20-point performances for him. Just kind of came out of nowhere. So, and then on top of that, you got like Matty Sissoko from Michigan State. You've got Lee Dort from Vanderbilt, like high major guys. So this isn't going to be a pushover team like we've seen the past 6 games. Like this is a respectable team that you can get a quality win over. I think they're a quad 3 team right now, but they're on the cusp of moving up to a quad 2, which I could definitely see happening down the line.
Daniel's asking who takes Grill's minutes. I know Dennis talked a little bit about that today.
A little bit. So it's going to be by committee, which he says about everything, obviously. But it made me think, a lot of people have asked, why does he play so many guys? And again, I'm not going to argue what happened in Memphis, but the other 6 games, like it makes you realize like it's kind of a good thing that Honor Boateng isn't going to take his first start tomorrow, right? It's kind of good that Marcus Allen has seen the court and that Trent Pierce has built up some confidence. So those are 3 names that I think will get a little bit of a bump in minutes. I could see Jacob Cruz taking some of those minutes. I also think he kind of liked the 3-guard lineup with Anthony Robinson, Marquez Warwick, and Tony Perkins. And Perkins has the size to slide out on the wing like that. So I could see a lot of different guys filling in for Caleb Grill for sure.
I liked it. I liked that lineup too when Marquez Warwick and Tony Perkins were playing the way they were playing. It'll be I feel like it's a test, but it shouldn't be a super hard test.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this team could use one of those because Drew, I hate to say it, man, I think Sunday's a super hard test.
Yeah. I think that's accurate.
I mean, now look, there is always the chance that Hunter Dickinson will like assault someone and be escorted out of the arena on Sunday at any point before the game, after the game, during the game. We have no idea. So that's always a possibility. KJ Adams gave Missouri absolute nightmares. Like what I'm interested to see is, and I understand there is a talent gap, right? KU is good, but I have seen, and I know you haven't because you have seen nothing but massacres in this game.
Correct.
I have seen Missouri teams with less talent than this beat Kansas teams with more talent than this because I've seen Missouri teams to whom this game really, really, really mattered.
Yeah.
And like the Missouri teams the last 2 or 3 years have played kind of like it's just another game against a really good team. And if that's how Missouri's going to play, they're going to get beat by 25 or 30 again. I think they need it may not be Caleb Grill, but I think they need someone with like Caleb Grill's madman attitude of like, I hate this team. We need to do something about it.
Yeah, I mean, we could put the cast back on Caleb Grill and just have him go out there swinging like we suggested last year.
I've suggested it last year, and I still don't know why they didn't do it.
Shoot, I mean, if there were somebody who could be the enforcer on this team, would it be Peyton Marshall? Would you just send him out there and say, hey, 5 fouls, have at it, kid?
I think it's Josh Gray. Josh Gray seems more capable of being mean and angry than Peyton Marshall does to me. Just, I don't know if that's fair or not. That's just how I feel.
No, I think that's valid. To talk about the actual basketball here, I think you're on the money. Like, this hasn't felt like a real rivalry since I've been here. Like, I understand there's the fans, there's definitely a rivalry, but as far as like Dennis Gates and Bill Self, there's not much of a rivalry there. Between the two teams, I don't
between the two people, right?
Yeah. And between the players, even, like, you know, I don't know how much Aiden Shaw really hates Kansas, and he's been here the longest. So, it's going to be an uphill climb. And like you said, like, if they really buy into it, I could see it happening. But right now, Kim Palm's got Kansas favored by 5. And if that happens, like, that's a pretty decent loss for Mizzou. Like, you'll take that.
And I think Dennis Gates should bring somebody in this week, and I don't really care who it is. A bunch of our viewers and subscribers would volunteer as tribute. Yes, I will come in and tell them why they should hate Kansas. I promise. Turn around and Dennis will bump into somebody that will volunteer to give that speech in Columbia sometime this week. So, all right. So 2 games this week. Drew and I will actually be live after both of them, but we'll be live after the Cal game tomorrow night, shooting for 8:45, 9 o'clock. We'll have the post-game show from Mizzou Arena. We got a deal worked out for about 8 to 10 basketball shows this year. So we're going to do one after Cal. We're going to do one after KU on Sunday. Those will be the first 2. The others are going to be a little bit flexible depending on the schedule, how the season's going, all that. But we'll get you guys 8 to 10 basketball shows. And Drew, we're going to let you go because I got a super chat football recruiting question that I missed earlier that I got to add on here and answer.
Real quick, Gabe, because I forgot to do it before at the start of the show. Real quick, just
how many of these damn things do you have left?
Would you believe me if I said 5?
Okay, I would believe you. That's fine.
Okay.
5 will get us through like New Year's.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I just want to know if we're going to be in like 2027 doing live shows popping this thing. So.
I mean, I can go get more. I can always get more.
All right, Drew. Appreciate you. We'll see you tomorrow.
No problem.
All right. And Christian Mayberry, I do want to apologize, man. I was doing a bunch of things, missed the super chat earlier, missed the question, but I do want to address it. He's asking, does the quarterback NIL market change with Bryce Underwood getting $10 million from Michigan? So here's what you guys have to understand. That's not $10 million a year. He is not getting $10 million next year. That $10 million is over 3, and I would actually probably guess more like 4 years. So 2.5. Yeah, there's guys that are going to cost that. Absolutely, there's guys that are going to cost that for a year if you want to hit the quarterback transfer market. If you want to play at the top end of this thing, I think you got to be looking to spend at least $2 million for next season. But that's the thing about those numbers. There's absolutely no way that Michigan is giving Bryce Underwood $10 million next year. So I think that's where some of the confusion is hit on that. It's expensive, no doubt. But like most people think, the cost of a good Power 5 program roster is somewhere around $15 million. I think Missouri's was in that range this year, 12 to 15. I think Ohio State was closer to like 18 to 20. Oregon probably in that upper range too. But like that's what you're talking about. $15 million is like average, pretty good Power 5 roster that gives you a chance. And $2 million of that probably going to go to the quarterback, to be honest. I mean, look at the NFL, right? You got 25% of your salary cap's taken up by one guy because that's how important the position is. So I don't know that Bryce Underwood changed that market. I think Bryce Underwood took advantage of that market. He may be one of the first freshmen to get that. I mean, I don't know what Dylan Raiola got at Nebraska. I don't know what DJ Lagway got at Florida. Like there are other guys, right? But I think probably 10 million over 3 or 4 years was a first for a true freshman who, again, has not done this. Has not done this at all. So, guys, appreciate you hanging out. Like I said, we have had, last I checked, like 12, 13 stories. We've been dropping stuff on the message board all day. Somebody at the very beginning of the show, I'm going to go back and find it, said that the season is over, but Power Mizzou season is just starting. And that really, like, again, I want to encourage everybody. Everybody covers the games, guys. Everybody covers practice, all that. Press conferences. Not everybody covers this stuff every day. This is signing day, portal, potential coaching moves. Like this is the time of year. It's really worth it. This next month is really worth it. And we are right now. I'm going to put it on the banner in case there are any of you guys who are not subscribers. I think most of you probably already subscribed to the site, but some of you may be here and just watch the YouTubes and all that. And that's great. We love having you here. But I'm going to tell you, until 10:59 tonight, that is 3 hours and 4 minutes from now, you can get a subscription your first year, 75% off. That is going away at 10:59 p.m. tonight. You can subscribe tomorrow. We'd love to have you. You're going to pay more. It's not going to be 100% price tomorrow, but it's going to be more than this. We're asking $26.86 for 12 months. That will take you all the way until next year's Arkansas game. It's $2.24 a month, guys. So if you are here and you don't subscribe, we would ask you to do that. If maybe you have some friends that don't subscribe because they're always asking you what's going on with Mizzou, then tell them right now, 75% off for the next 3 hours and 3 minutes. While you're here, like, subscribe. So when we go live, we're going to be live both the next 2 nights. We're going to be live after basketball tomorrow night. It's Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. Sean, Jarod, and I are going to have a signing day deal. We're going to talk about the class, talk about the players, talk about Eli Drinkwitz's comments and all that on the class. So we'll be live Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Be back with you on Sunday after Kansas basketball and probably talking a little bit of bowl game. Probably try to get Jarod to pop on, and we'll be back next Monday. So we're going to be here a lot. Subscribe. You will get a notification when we go live. If you listen later on the podcast, like that as well. Leave a good review, share it on social media. And as always, get in touch with my guy, James Carlton, at James Carlton State Farm Insurance over in Webster Groves. James wants your business. If you call him, you get a quote from him. You tell him you heard about him on Power Mizzou from me. He's going to give you that quote. You're probably going to like it and sign up with him. But even if you don't, he's going to donate to Mizzou's NIL efforts. Never more important than it is during the next 3-4 weeks with the transfer portal opening. So appreciate you guys. We'll be back on the message boards on the website, dropping all the information we have leading up to signing day in 2 days. And again, be back here tomorrow night after Mizzou and Cal. Thanks for hanging out. Talk to you next time.